Today we're going to talk about your deadlift. We're going to make sure you're doing it right and some common mistakes to avoid. So I'm with my fellow sensei, Hector. We're going to start from the bottom up. So here's some things you want to be thinking about when you're doing your deadlift. First off is your stance. So you want to make sure that you're not too wide. You're also not too narrow. So you're going to be about shoulder width apart. Boom, giving yourself enough space to make sure that your arms can be on the outside. Now, when you do start your setup, you want to make sure that when you do come down into the setup just like here, you want to pull those hips below the shoulders. So it's almost like you got this triangle. You got your shoulder, your knee, then your hip, and it's going to go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. You'll also notice here, you want to make sure that your knees are slightly out. Now, when you start to ascend and you start to come up, you want to make sure that they don't cave in as you're coming up. And that's a common mistake that we'll see. Next thing, as you think about your grip and how you pull up on the bar, you want to slightly pull the slack out of the bar before you just pop up quick. So like pop up quick, Hector, if you don't pull the slack out, yeah, exactly. And then do it where you pull the slack out first and you can get your core ready to go and then you come up strong. Yep. So now when you kind of think about the next position, we're going to come to the side. So we talked about where your stance is, where your knees need to be, and then we think about pulling the slack out the bar. And then when you ascend, you want to make sure that you have that flat back. So you don't want to round. Pulling the slack out is what's going to help you do it well. But if you see Hector's position here, he has that triangle where the shoulders are slightly above the hips are slightly above the knees. He's loaded up his hamstring to the max. And then as he comes up, his back is flat and he can bring his hips through. Good, go right back down, boom. Now, another thing to be thinking about here is your lats. So as you pull up on that bar, you wanna really engage your lats. You don't wanna be loose. Because if you're loose here, just like that, so show them what kind of loose looks like. Yeah, you're gonna have a little bit of roundness. You're not gonna be as stiff in your lats. So when you engage those lats, boom, just like that, you're gonna have even more power from your upper body. Let's talk about the top position. So this is the top position. When you do all those things again, you think about from the bottom all the way up, you get your feet in the right stance, your knees are in the right place, your arms are slightly outside, you pull that slack out, you come up with control. You wanna make sure that you bring your hips through, but you don't arch back. You wanna be up tall like a pencil, and your core is engaged and you're driving your hips through the bar. And then when you descend, you see how he keeps that bar close to his body. He does an RDL down and then he drops. Show that again one more time. So a lot of times we'll see people do a descend like this where they'll let the bar get too far away and they'll try to squat it down. Exactly. And that puts a little bit of stress, too much stress on your low back. So when you do descend, make sure you're keeping that bar really close and then you're just dropping it down right after you get past the knees. So those are what you need to do to make sure that you don't make any mistakes, you're as strong as possible, and you get that green light from a technique standpoint.